Fantastic. So first question, how do you feel about having such a huge positive response from the fans and being made a series regular? I mean, it's been a great year for you.
It's been really terrific. And, it's funny now, I look back on, I first came in and started on episode 4 in season 4. And it's funny because in hindsight, I realize now like how much, I didn't think about how much was, not at stake there is not the right word, but how much was when it did and really tried to establish the character. But looking back on it, it's almost like when you finish a road trip and you go, wow, we came really far with this the whole season last year and now our team. And it's just been a great ride. And the fans around at the airport and the convention and stuff like that, they're just great. There's so much to interact with and so many people telling me that they love the show and they do it with their family every week. Wow, it's fantastic to be a part of that.
Yeah, have you tried a flash suit on yet? I think is the biggest question.
Have I tried a flash suit on? No, I mean, I actually I would love to, but it would make one for me. There's no way I would fit into Grant's. But, every time I look at that thing, I'm a little tempted to put it on.
Yeah. Did you get any input with your own costume at all? Because I know you got, your grey one first, and then you went on to your proper costume.
I probably had more input on the grey one, honestly, than I did on the second one. The second one, I didn't feel like I needed to give a lot of input. I tried it on. I saw the design out, and I thought, actually, that looks pretty damn cool. And, I was a little concerned that they would go these characters so out there, but I thought it was great to kind of make it something that felt a little more serious in terms of like, oh, it looks like you could really go to work. Yeah, so I was just saying that I didn't, the new suit, the purple suit that Ralph has now, I didn't give a lot of input on that. And it's in part because when I saw it, I saw the drawings, I thought it looked really cool and good. And then when I put it on, I didn't really have any notes. Like they just did a great job with it. And I think they do a great job with all of those super suits. So that was something that I just thought worked really well. And my only concern was that they would do something that was kind of goofy given the nature of the character. But I liked that they didn't do that. They gave him like kind of a, like a real super suit. And I love that. So that was super fun for me to see, and that was a real thrill to try it out for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, how do you act when you do the whole elasticated thingy?
So that stuff is, the visual effects team works all the time on that stuff, and they do a terrific job. But there are a lot of things where, I'll do things with the body and things to sell it, and then there's some stuff that is just, almost like contorting myself a little bit to do these things. But I've done everything from hung upside down to on wires to be blown back to, every different little thing or just a tiny movement here with the fingers. It's every level of things. And it's that stuff gets to be time consuming because you have to get it just right so they can do the work that they need to do with the effect stuff. But it's really fun to bring that physicality to it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, how did you do the peach?
That was all a VFX thing. That was like, they, basically from the neck down, they were like, we got it. And it was, from the neck up, I just kind of did what I needed to do up there. But, ironically enough, last year when I did the Santa Claus thing, I think it was in episode 9, that was practical. That was like, wow. So we do both, it just kind of depends. Like the pear or whatever was the peach, the pear, that was visual effects. But last year when I grew a belly to like be Santa Claus, and I think it was episode 9, season 4, that was actually kind of a balloon that was strapped to my waist and my chest that just, the guys were just hidden off the frame so you couldn't see them, and they hit a button and it just went, and just,
wow.
It was like an airbag going off.
Nice. And this is your day job. How amazing is that?
I know. It's like every time I go to work, I'm like, this is easily the best job in the world. If not one of the best jobs in the world for anybody. I mean, you just get to go to work and have fun.
Definitely. And I mean, you've had an amazing arc this season, haven't you? You're really embracing what it is to be a hero and helping Caitlin out. Where would you like to see Ralph kind of progress next?
I think the thing that I really want for him is in the comics, he's, the detective aspect of the character is such a big thing for him. And that's something that we started to build up to this year. And that's what I really want to see more and more of. Because I love the idea of this guy who, he'll always say kind of the wrong thing and get his ass kicked or get, side eye from everybody. But, the comics, the detective aspect of the character is something that I love because he's really, really good at it. He's really got a skill there. So we've started to explore that a little bit more, and that's something that I really want to see more of too. And I also love, with the way that we introduced the character last year, he was in like a world of criminals, in a world of not very good people, in a world of people not doing good things. And so this year we kind of talked about that. Like, there's this whole world out there that Ralph came from before he was part of Team Flash. And wouldn't it be fun to go back to that a little bit and, see what happens with that? So we're actually doing a little bit of that in episode 13 coming up. We need to find something that's going to help us fight Cicada, and nobody knows where to look. And Ralph does, because he knows where the black market is. He knows where the underworld is, all that stuff. So that was really cool to see. I love that aspect of him, because everybody else on Team Flash is great, but they're pretty much squeaky clean, and it's nice that he's not,
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I mean, would you like to see a spin-off detective show with Sherlock? How amazing would that be?
I would love that. Like, he was actually, what was it? What's the show on CBS TMNT that I think is ending this year with, is it Lucy Liu? And I can't remember the other actor's name, but like, I would love that. I love working with Tom, and, he's a friend of mine too. So anytime we get to work with him, it's always a ball. He's such a wonderful actor and just a great guy. So, but I love those two characters together too. And that stuff was fun earlier on in the season to do, episode 4 or 5 or whatever it was, where, they both kind of did their thing as detectives. But I would love to see those two together as much as possible. I love it.
Yeah. And how much fun was it filming the Elseworlds crossover? You managed to get to punch Barry in the face.
That was so much fun because, when you stop and think about it, I punched Barry in the face, but I also, kind of knocked out the Green Arrow too in a way. I mean, how many people get to do that, right? Like,
yeah.
I know it wasn't Steven, so I can't really lay claim to that. In that world, it was like, hey, Ralph knocked out the Green Arrow, not too bad. But I loved being a part of that crossover, and I didn't get to do it last year, and I got to do some of it this year, and I'm hoping to do even more of it in the future, because they are huge undertakings to shoot. But this year in particular for me, I mean, I thought it turned out wonderfully well, and I thought it was just so much fun. And when I started to see the footage, I'll tell you, when I read the scripts early on, I had heard the idea. I loved the idea of the body swap thing, the Freaky Friday. And then when I read the scripts, I was on a plane and I read all of them at once. And I was like, man, I'm 10 years old again in my trunk full of comic books in, my bedroom upstairs, because this is what it feels like. It felt so much fun to me. It felt like, hey, let's set up the stuff, but let's just have a good time. Right. And it felt like a special run of comic books, and like a great graphic novel where it's like, Modal used to do like What If, Hulk killed Wolverine and that kind of stuff. So it felt like a What If kind of thing. And it was just so much fun. It appealed to the kid in me and also appealed to the adult in me. And I just thought it was great. And then I saw the finished product. And, I mean, I thought it was just pure fun, pure joy. And you could tell that everybody had fun doing it when you watched the product do. And, for example, Steven and Grant together, I mean, they were just great together. Like, they were having so much fun. Their chemistry was through the roof. And I just loved it. I loved it.
Yeah. And I mean, it was weird to see Grant trying to, the dark brooding Arrow, wasn't it?
There's that, do you remember the moment when, I think it's when they first meet Ruby Rose's character, and somebody says, maybe it's Melissa, says something, somebody says something to Grant, who fixes all the moment where, Grant is everybody thinks he's Oliver, and he says, oh no, I would never compare myself to a badass like Batman. And he kind of looks at Steven, and Steven kind of glares at him, and it was just a brilliant moment, and it genuinely made me laugh out loud, because it was just the two characters coming together for that moment of, you shut up right now. It was just brilliant.
Yeah, it was really meta as well, wasn't it?
It was great. It was just great. It was just like, it was almost like because last year, I liked last year's crossover. It was so big, it was so much going on, and with the wedding going on and all the other stuff. And this year it was just a little cleaner, a little more simple, and just pure fun. It's pure fun.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you must have so much fun on set. You've got a cracking cast, haven't you? Do you have a favourite story from set at all that you could tell us? The thing about a lot of the stories on set is it just happens spontaneously when you're on like hour 11, hour 12. Yeah.
And you get in, me and Tom and Grant or whatever get into a bit. And it always becomes like the bit of the day where you just play that for hours and hours, whether it's a game or somebody came up with a catchphrase or something like that. And it's a very spontaneous thing, and it becomes very fun. In terms of a specific favorite story, I don't know if I have one that would be. I mean, a lot of them are definitely not PG-13 in terms of some of the jokes that we do and some of the fun that we have. But it's just always a hoot, and it's also useful too in the sense that having so much fun together and laughing so much and so genuinely with each other before you go to action before you hear action, it carries over into the scene, and it carries the energy into the scene, and it makes everybody just kind of come alive. There's more light behind the eyes because, you're just trying to keep it together because Tom just said something that's so funny that you can't even stop smiling.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about the second half of season 5 without trying to spoil anything when the Flash returns?
Well, what I can tell you is, we come back next Tuesday night. At least over here, that's when we come back. And I think they're doing an international thing the next day. I can't remember exactly. But we're going to see the whole thing with Cicada start to ramp up and all of that. And obviously, we've revealed now that, Nora, we've started to reveal that Nora is working with Thawne in the future. And I was really excited to see that because I love that character of Reverse Flash and Thawne. And I think he plays it so well. And to me, that's such a great, great villain. I mean, I would put that up there with any of the movie villains and comic books and stuff like that. It's a great performance and a great villain. So I'm excited to see more of that play out. And, at some point, it will be revealed to the entire team that, Nora is doing this, Sherlock's figuring it out, but Nora, Nora's going to have to own up to that at a certain point, and the rest of the team will find out, and that's going to be, an atomic bomb, particularly, I think, for Barry and Iris. And in terms of Ralph going forward, we've seen great stuff coming up. Episode 11, he's involved with, some more stuff with Ralph and Killer Frost, and I love the two characters together, and Ralph really stepping up to be a hero to save some metahumans. And, episode 13 is a really fun one. It's pretty much all Ralph and Barry for the whole episode. And that's something that, Grant and I had so much fun on because he and I worked a lot together last year and we had a blast. So we always laugh a lot when we're together. And then we just started shooting now. I'm excited for this one. I think they talked about it a little bit at Comic-Con. I mentioned it, but we're now getting into shooting King Shark versus Gorilla Grodd, which is something that I'm very excited for. Just as a fan, because I love King Shark, I love Grodd. I think they pulled that off so well in this world. I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the VFX team are just fantastic when it comes to those effects with Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, as a fan of comic books years ago, before I was on the show, when I heard that they were doing King Shark, my first thought was like, who do you think you are and how are you going to pull that off? And again, this was before I worked on the show, and I said, there's no way this is going to work. And then I saw the King Shark episode, and I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. I was like, this works so well. And I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And so ever since then, and then in season 3, when we went to Gorilla City, which is, I mean, the visual effects in that Gorilla City scene where actual Barry fights Salivar, if I remember correctly, and the visual effects in that scene, I mean, just out of this world, this world. So they do such a fantastic job with that stuff, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. So last one, are you working on anything else at the moment? And are you going to be doing any conventions? Because I know you came to Heroes and Villains Fan Fest in London last year.
You know, actually my first one. It was in London last year. That's where I kicked it all off.
Wow.
So I had to schedule one in. And so, you know, right now what I have coming up is I'm looking at my schedule for the summer for the hiatus, because obviously shooting keeps us very busy 10 months of the year. So I did one in San Jose last month in early December. And I'm looking at one in Regina, Canada coming up, and then trying to schedule the rest of the summer, you know, schedule for hiatus and see where that all falls down, where that lands. But I love doing them. It's a privilege to do those conventions and to meet people. And I remember being so nervous the first time I did it. And, you know, the Londoners and everybody from all over Europe were just fantastic. I mean, they were just, you know, I was worried nobody was going to show up. It's like, oh, who's taking care about me? And then you get there and you have this big line and just people coming all day long, and it was just wonderful because it's person after person that they just love this. They love the show, they love the world, they love the character. My favorite thing to hear is, you know, parents with their kids saying, you know, this is what we do every week. We've done this every week for 5 years. We watch this show and we love your character and we just love this world. And that to me is the magic of being on a show like this. That's probably my favorite thing, is hearing families say, this is like the thing we do together. And this is, you know, as our kids become teenagers and one's graduating high school, we still do it. You know, we still do it every week. And I love that.
Yeah, and it must be great because you probably don't get to interact much with your fans, do you? And to like finally find out you're a huge fan favorite must be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you never know. You know, you never know. You run into some people at the airport or whatnot and everything, and you know, they've never even been to London, so that was a whole experience for me too, and it was wonderful. It's just wonderful to go there, and you know, I always try to proceed from gratitude and remember how lucky I am, and you know, I have the best job in the world, and I love my job, and I have a great life, and that just is the icing on the cake for people to enjoy what you're doing and have it bring families together. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Definitely. So thank you so much for joining us on the show today, and we're so looking forward to The Flash returning.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. We should do it again.